Hi guys, welcome in. My name is Sarah. I am a mindset mastery coach, transformational hypnotherapist, and attachment style specialist. And the past few days, I have taken a little bit of a break. We lost one of our beloved kitties. He had fought cancer 2 times and he was just tired. So I've been taking that time to really mourn and grieve and find gratitude for the life that he lived and for the time and experiences that we were able to give him. And so I'm back today with another video, and today I want to talk a little bit more about the dismissive avoidant. I want to sort of get down to the nitty-gritty of what forms, like how does a dismissive avoidant form in childhood? So I want to get into some of the specifics. If you're new, welcome in, have a look around. You can like, share, and subscribe. That greatly helps my channel grow organically. And if you'd like a private session with me, coaching session or hypnotherapy, or a blend of both of the two modalities, you can reach out to me. There's actually a booking link below in the description box. So let's dive right in. The first thing that really calls out to me, there's always birds here. The first thing that really calls out to me is for a dismissive avoidant, a bad argument can oftentimes for them signal in their minds a trauma response of bad relationship. So a bad argument equals bad relationship, which obviously isn't the case. But they crave peace so desperately because that's all they know from their childhood is how to self-soothe, how to auto-regulate versus co-regulate within the context or confines of any relationship, much less a romantic relationship. So in childhood, this is how it went for the dismissive avoidant. If they brought up an issue or a problem to their parents, they were almost automatically dismissed to some level. They were dismissed and rejected, or it caused chaos if the parent had no emotional regulation skills. So what would chaos look like? It could be throwing things, it could be yelling or screaming, sending them to their room to once again auto-regulate, to learn that nobody cares about my feelings, that I better be the perfect child or else, ... So fast forward to adult relationships, how does this play out? Well, the dismissive avoidant person learned that if I want to be accepted by my person, I have to be perfect. So they oftentimes won't bring anything to the table. They will keep it to themselves, hush hush, they will shove it down. Dismissive avoidants are really good at suppressing or repressing things that bother them. And then suddenly it will all come out in a discard when they've decided to break up with you. I think the bird agrees. So they feel like I can't bring any issues to the table, or they might reject me. And then that would open up or reopen up that wound from childhood that says basically that I am defective at my core, that I am unworthy. It's not safe for them to speak their truth. So they never learned how to co-regulate. So they auto-regulate. They figure out on their own, and they internalize their pain and their shame and appear stoic, strong, and often very hyper independent. And this can be really daunting for a partner, even a secure partner, even if it's, I've heard the term ethical avoidance. So even if it's more of an ethical avoidant or somebody who's doing the work, but who's aware that they have avoidant tendencies or that they have this attachment wound, this dismissive avoidant attachment wound, it might still be challenging because if you're an anxious person or you're not very secure yourself in your attachment style, then it can be really challenging to be involved with this type of person because they're always going to need to auto-regulate. They're always going to need that time. They might just learn how to communicate it better, right? As they heal, as they move forward with their healing and understanding of what avoidance is and what attachment theory is and attachment wounding, then they may be able to just communicate more clearly, hey, I'm going to need some time. But that could still be challenging for an anxious leaning person. They really feel like they cannot rely on anybody. And they really had no examples of healthy conflict and communication. So, and again, it could have been just silence in the household, or it could have been screaming and yelling. It could have been throwing things. It could have been sending them to their room, any number of things. So they prioritize their independence. They also prioritize emotional distance. And that's not very warm. It doesn't give you like warm feeling vibes, right? It sort of gives you cold, stoic, unfeeling vibes. And so oftentimes the dismissive avoidant is accused of being heartless, they're accused of being calculated, they're accused of being too logical, they're accused of being too in their minds, not enough in their hearts, because truly I don't think the dismissive avoidant could have that heart-brain coherence. And if you're wondering what is heart-brain coherence, you can look at Joe Dispenza's work and some of his colleagues to understand what that means. But we should all be aiming for heart-brain and gut coherence, because the gut is like the second brain. So conflict for them, for dismissive avoidant, feels like a threat to their autonomy and their independence, okay? It really feels like they don't do well with conflict. That's why you'll often hear them say, I just want peace. But they're not sure how to provide emotional safety to create the peace, especially for an anxious leaning partner, right? Or even a fearful avoidant partner. Feels demanding. Conflict feels demanding for a dismissive avoidant. So they withdraw, they may devalue the partner or the entire relationship. And that's when you get that kind of sudden discard. That's really painful. They really need to feel in control, and conflict disrupts this false sense of power. Conflict, or even perceived slights or criticism, doesn't have to mean they actually happen, but perceived slights or criticism makes them feel hyper threatened. What are they going to do? They're going to withdraw. They're going to devalue you, devalue the relationship, and they're going to hyper value, if I can say that as a phrase, their independence and emotional distance. They inherently have a negative view of relationships, and conflict reinforces this. And your opinion can be very threatening to them because they have a very fragile sense of self, okay? So your opinion can appear, you could be saying it in the nicest way, the most thoughtful manner, and they can still perceive your opinion as a threat or as attacking them. I often heard that from my partner. You're attacking me, and I was not attacking him. I was trying to get him to understand where I was coming from, and I was out of breath. I was like, I was so frustrated, but it can often be perceived as an attack. So ultimately a DA feels undeserving of love, deeply flawed, and they're terrified of getting hurt, so they'll push even healthy conflict away. What does this do inside of the confines of a relationship? Well, when they're so apt to basically not even engage in healthy conflict, you can't get anywhere, because ultimately somebody's pushing down their needs, and it's usually their partner. The DA is used to pushing down their needs because it's what they learned in childhood. It's part of their attachment wounding, right? To become secure, they'd actually have to delve deep, and they'd have to process breakups and process losses and process their childhood. It's easier just to sort of push it down and push it away. So when they're pushing away healthy conflict, that relationship has no choice but with time to crumble, because otherwise it's just standing on such a fragile, faulty foundation, right? What's really sad, I feel like, is healthy conflict could strengthen the relationship if navigated properly, but the dismissive avoidant doesn't know how to do that. So their need for emotional dysregulation can often show up as like silence. It can show up as withdrawing. It can show up as excessive work, right? Working excessively, making excuses, sort of like finding hobbies, finding ways to not be present in the relationship. Like you might ask them like, hey, come sit down and come watch the movie with me. And they're like, oh, I've got things to do. It's their way of checking out. It's their way of staying dysregulated, because that to them is comfortable. Getting regulated and co-regulating with a partner is very scary. It's foreign to the dismissive avoidant. They don't know what that is. So they embody this core belief that they're fundamentally defective or even unlovable. And at their core, they believe that they're meant to end up alone and that they cannot have a healthy relationship. And I just find that so incredibly sad, because everybody wants emotional closeness and intimacy, but ultimately the dismissive avoidant doesn't understand how to obtain that. So even if there's moments where they really, really desire it, it's almost like they're in love with you until they realize they're in love with you, and then they're like, whoa, put on the brakes, right? They can speak love, they can say love. You might have even felt the love from your dismissive avoidant partner, but at some point in time, that love became too demanding for the dismissive avoidant. Your needs and desires became too demanding for this person. They had to pull away. They had to self-regulate, or auto-regulate as it's called. And that leaves you as the partner feeling like bare naked in the relationship, like you're standing alone inside of a relationship and you don't actually have a partner to do life with. which was the whole reason of being in a relationship, right? Is to have somebody there that you can rely on. You really can't rely on an unaware dismissive avoidant. And I know I can just see someone going, wait, Sarah, can you rely on an aware dismissive avoidant? I think you could. This person would have to be putting in the work, working with a therapist, skilled, qualified therapist or coach that understands attachment styles, doing their own due diligence, taking the courses, reading the books, but not just that, you have to apply it. You can learn, like dismissive avoidants tend to be the type that are very highly educated, right? This is another way of avoiding being in relationships. Well, they're going to be the ones that have like a JD and an MD. They're going to be the ones that run, they're an account executive and they have 5 other companies. They're going to be the ones that they don't place as much importance on relationships as other attachment styles do. Definitely not like an anxious attachment or even a secure person. They really place priority on independence, their alone time, because that's where they recharge their batteries. They cannot recharge their batteries inside of a relationship. Again, if they're healing, I think that's a different story. I think you really want to ask specific questions, and that could be the topic for another video, or working with me one-on-one to figure out what questions do I want to ask to make sure this person is actually ready for a relationship and for a commitment, and not just superficially, because we know, I've said this in previous videos, that the dismissive avoidant can often just appear shallow. They're swimming in shallow waters. They don't want to go deeper because it's scary, and because not just that, they don't understand, like their nervous system is not regulated enough to swim in those deeper waters. They've been living their whole life in the shallow end of the ocean, guys. And you come in and you're like whoosh with these needs and desires and passions, and they may flock to you because they're like, we seek that which we're not, right? So we're going to seek out partners that we think are, have the qualities that we don't have, or that we can't acquire, or that we don't know how to bring out in ourselves. We seek that in a partner, right? It makes perfect sense. We're seeking out our match. With a dismissive avoidant, I think they can sometimes be very attracted to somebody who's the opposite of them, who's passionate, who's deep, who's, insightful. But when it comes down to it, that person challenges them like nobody else could, and it can be too much for them. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. I hope this was helpful, guys. I really, really want to get awareness out there for attachment styles and attachment theory, because it's life-changing. It's a game changer, really, if you can understand, especially if you're still with this person or you want to continue to be with this person. And the one thing I would advise to not do is do not sit around learning about attachment styles in hopes that you can bring back your ex, because chances are with a dismissive avoidant person, they would have to do a lot of work to get, especially if you're becoming secure. If they're not becoming secure, then that could still pose a significant threat and challenge to a serious relationship. And you have to decide if you deserve better or not. That person may not want to grow. They may not want to evolve. Maybe that's not in their contract in this lifetime to grow or evolve. Maybe they're happy where they're at. And if that's the case, then, far be it for you to disturb their peace or their, so-called peace. People are where they want to be. It is, right? I can't remember who said this, but it's not our responsibility. It's not our fault what happened to us, the traumas that happened to us, but it is our responsibility to heal them so we don't hurt other people. I'm going to end the video here. Have a beautiful day, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.